You've seen the headlines, but we
Why would Facebook want to gatekeep?
dig deeper.
If you want to keep individuals harmless by this, wages would have to go up by the exact same amount as prices.
Featuring experts from the University of Toledo.
I think there are two things that probably worry me the most about Afghanistan.
It's Rocket Talk.
The local library, schools, a TV station, they've all been victims of a cyber attack. Earlier this year, a gas pipeline was temporarily shut down because of one. We all rely so heavily upon the internet and yet seem somewhat caught off guard when others online seek to cause harm by shutting something down, disrupting something, or stealing data. Here to discuss cyber threats and security today on Rocket Talk, Dr. Ahmad Javaid, associate professor who founded and leads research labs in the Electrical Engineering and Computer Science Department, and Dr. Weiqing Sun, professor of computer science and engineering technology in the College of Engineering. He's the founder and director of the master's programs in cybersecurity. He has more than 20 years experience. And gentlemen, both of you have so much experience. We could spend 11 minutes just going over your bios. Those of you at home, these gentlemen know what they're talking about. Let's just leave it at that. The very first question I actually want both of you to address, and Dr. Sun, we can start with you. Those local attacks last month certainly got our attention, the attack on the library, but I imagine that hackers could do so much more if they wanted to. What worries you the most, and where are we most vulnerable as a nation?
Hi, Jason. That's a really good question. I think we should all worry about the cyber attacks nowadays. We can see a lot of national news nowadays, even locally, right? We got affected by cyber attacks. So let's talk about a little bit about this Colonial Pipeline hack that's got national attention. That attack happened in May this year, and it's actually a ransomware attack. So it was basically a hacker group somehow controlled the key equipment which managed the pipeline operation, and the organization had to shut down the whole pipeline operation for a week. And a big part of the nation, right, got affected. So that's really something worrisome, okay, because we used to feel that, okay, the cyber attack is far away, right? It happened in the cyberspace, but now it's getting closer and closer to us, right? Even our everyday life of critical infrastructure got affected. So we have to really pay attention to our critical infrastructure protection so that our nation can be protected better.
Dr. Javaid, what worries you the most? And it seems like the library, the TV station, that seems kind of small. I mean, why are they targeting these things now? Will it get worse?
So a lot of times, we have to think about what the attackers have access to, what they can actually get to, right? In many cases, it just might be a test run, right? Who knows, what they are actually really trying to target and things like that. The other important thing is we have to remember that it's not just, Department of Defense or CIA, FBI, these agencies which are being targeted right now. As Dr. Sun mentioned, right, critical infrastructure, right, which includes our water supply, gas supplies at home, electricity supply, and even our infrastructure in terms of the power grid, right, the nuclear power plants, and so many things like even healthcare, right, in hospitals. What if in the middle of the pandemic, when the emergency departments are dealing with 100, 500, 1,000 cases every day, what if their network gets hacked, right? What if they are not able to get into the system, even input data and things like that? How badly this will affect the services which they are actually being which they are providing to the users, right, to the patients and so on. So this is again in my perspective, this is also one of the biggest concerns, right? Our daily life, and even internet, for example, right? What if an attack happens to an internet service provider, right? Let's say a whole town or a whole city or a whole county gets affected and nobody has access to the internet, right? And we know that how much our lives depend on the internet on a daily basis, right? Just losing access, especially in the middle of such a kind of a depressing era of the pandemic, right, where physical touch and all those things have become so less. If we lose access to the internet, right, what kind of impact it can have on the general population, right? So there are definitely national security is definitely very, very important, and a lot of agencies are looking at that, and the infrastructure bill also kind of puts more money into cybersecurity, different agencies. But just thinking about the impact on daily lives of every citizen and everyone who is in this country, that is that's is definitely very, very scary.
Yeah, I mean, you're mentioning that critical infrastructure, nuclear plants, water plants. I mean, could someone hack in and add a little too much of a particular chemical into the water, and we drink it and we die?
Exactly. Yeah. That's always possible, right? I mean, there was a couple of months back, I think there was an attack in Florida, right, where hackers were able to hack into a water purification plant, and they were able to readjust the amount of chlorine which actually goes into the water to clean it. So, I mean, obviously, if it reaches really high level, like I mean, in Ohio, we have the Lake Erie, the algal bloom, all kinds of issues, right? So if someone gets into a purification plant and just make sure that the water is not even purified, right? So the time it takes the agency to issue for example a water boil advisory and things like that, how many people can get affected and hospitalized or or even die because of those things, right? So these kind of little things have become really important in today's this cyber age, essentially.
Exactly.
So it sounds like we're not doing enough, Dr. Sun, to protect against this. Yeah. Often when you read news articles about this, the foreign governments will claim that they had nothing to do with it. It just happened on their soil. Do you believe that? And should these foreign governments be doing more to stop this?
I think it's a difficult question. So as a security researcher, educators, probably cannot give 100%, right?
More controversial.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have to involve probably. It's a collaboration effort. I think that we need that among different nations, right? We have to collaborate because U.S. not alone, right? A lot of other nations also have all kinds of cyber attacks, towards their nation, their government, their people, right? So nobody's alone in this interconnected digital world nowadays. And there are a lot of underground hacking organizations nowadays, and they are collaborating. They are not originating from a single country. Sometimes they are basically cross borders, right? They are working together, try to get the benefit of probably stealing a lot of money, try to basically affect some critical infrastructure of certain government. They are talking all together. Okay, certainly, as you said, there are some specific hacking group might be sponsored by certain government. Okay, so we don't want to name names here. So certainly that's possible. But I think as a citizen, as a security researcher and educator, I think we do need to rely on a lot of collaboration effort among governments, among this society, education society, try to fight this cyber crime, cyber threats altogether.
So we're talking about these groups coming together, maybe with members from different countries. Should we be worried about foreign governments hacking and attacking in the cyber security realm, as an act of aggression? I mean, is this the future of war?
Yeah, that's definitely the case. As Dr. Sun already mentioned, right? It's whenever we are talking about an adversary, right? Traditionally wars have been fought, with maybe guns, tanks, planes, and things like that. But the next age of the war is essentially the cyber war, right? Cyber warfare, where countries are now looking at options of disabling, for example, communication, right? Because now everything depends on communication. If someone is able to jam a signal, and we are not able to transmit information to our own troops in some other parts of the world, then we are essentially we are disabled, right? How can we ensure the safety of our own people who are in the different countries, for example, right? We just saw how things went down for example in Afghanistan, right? So in this particular case, imagine if a communication link is broken, what can it do, right? And at the same time, as Dr. Sun also mentioned, that it's all these attacks are a kind of a mix of some state-sponsored activity and some independent activities as well, right? I don't think any country can really deny that. But at the same time, collaboration among different countries is again very, very vital to this. I think all of us know that in many countries, including US, actually, we don't even have a specific law against cybersecurity attacks and things like that, right? So imagine, right? I mean, in many countries even working together, not even having their own laws. Forget about any international laws, right? So that is one of the biggest challenge, right? And I think last month, I think for the first time, during this I forgot the name of that summit actually. G20 or whatever summit that was. So a lot of countries came together for the first time, as an example, to eliminate these tax havens, for example, where any person who commits some kind of crime or something in a country, they are able to put away their money safely in some other foreign country, right? So I think almost 100 countries or something like that. Don't quote me on the numbers, but the countries have come together to to eliminate these tax havens, so that any crime is committed, those people should not be able to stay safely in another country by stealing away from the people. So something similar needs to happen in terms of cybersecurity as well, where countries have to come together and realize the catastrophic damage any state actors can also do, right? And any hacking group can do if, let's say, they get access to our nuclear power plants, or water system, gas system, all those kind of infrastructure.
Dr. Sun, the last question is going to go to you. A lot of people pay the ransom. Ransomware is there, and are we sending the wrong message by paying the ransom?
It's a challenging question. So as an organization, if for instance, it's a hospital environment, right? So if the hospital suddenly become paralyzed and cannot basically continue the operation, certainly it's a really urgency, right? Typically, attackers try to target at this type of organization so that people don't have time to think. They are going to pay their ransom right away. Hopefully, the attacker will basically decrypt whatever, right, data, and try to basically can help the servers, computers sort of recover their function so that the operation can resume. But the message from FBI, the government, basically said you should never pay the ransom. Okay, that's a strong message from government because we don't want to encourage people, right, to pay so that the hacker can say, okay, that's really okay area they want to spend the time on, right? So that's basically the message, strong message from government. Yeah, I think that's a good one. Yeah.
Well, thanks to both of you. That's all the time we have, unfortunately, but we will see you again next week with more Rocket Talk from the University of Toledo.